right. Hey, guys. How's it going? Middle school students. Man, this is kind of a different sort of situation. I usually am in live and in person in front of people, and it's just kind of different. And usually people greet me, they say hi. So if you could just nice and loud on the count of three, say hi, Joe, on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. That was at like a 4 out of 10. You are middle school students. I know. I have one. You can be louder than that. On the count of 3, say hi, Joe, with a little bit more enthusiasm, please. 1, 2, 3. There. I felt it. I appreciate that. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to start off. I'm going to share some stories, get into some messages. But before we get into any of that, I want to do a quick little brain warm-up. Everybody put your hands like this. Good. Even the crabby kid in the back that doesn't want to do it, get your hands up like this. Awesome. I'm going to put my hands up like this. When I cross them, right when my hands are in the middle, I want you to clap at the same time. If everyone does this correctly, it'll be one big sound, only when they cross. Here we go. Good. 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 No. You see, I didn't cross them there. Only when they cross. Hands like this. Here we go. No, they didn't cross there. Shake it out. Probably early in the morning. I get it. I believe in you, though. 7th graders, nobody. 8th graders, 6th graders, nobody smarter than you. All right, hands like this. Here we go. Don't do drugs. Okay. We're going to move forward on this. I feel a good energy, a good connection with this group. You guys kind of remind me of me when I was in middle school. And if there was one word I would use to describe me when I was in middle school, it would be the word weird. Yes, I was a card-carrying member of the Weird Club for many, many years. In fact, I still am the captain of the card-carrying club. If you'd have thought that my weirdness would have just gone away in middle school or high school, you would be mistaken. I am still very weird to this day, and I know it because I do a lot of flying for this job. I'm in airports and in airplanes quite a bit, which means I see little kids, little babies on the airplanes. Now, 99% of the people out there, the non-weird ones, can get a little baby to smile. The 1% weirdos out there like myself, we struggle at making babies smile. Like a baby will look at me and I'll be like, Gucci goo, gaga, or whatever, and I get one of 3 responses, either A, B, or C. Yeah, that guy's got a restraining order. Don't ask questions. So, yes, I'm weird. One of the things that I've been trying that's kind of weird in the last couple of years is I've tried to start learning how to play guitar, which is kind of weird in the sense that as an adult, that's something that you would probably pick up when you were younger. And I remember when I was younger, I always wanted to play guitar. I would sit on my sister's bed and she would have these things called cassette tapes, and we'd put them in this thing called a boom box. Your teachers are nodding their head right now. And we would play songs from bands like Bon Jovi and Poison and what else was like Metallica and things like that. And I remember thinking to myself, one day I want to get on stage with a guitar in front of thousands of people. Well, now I get on a stage in front of thousands of people, but rarely do I ever get to bring my guitar because it's something that I'm sort of trying out for the very first time. So I'm going to share a song with you right now, and in this song, what I'd like you to do is I'd like us to make this kind of a little bit of a competition. I'm 99% sure you know this song, and you probably know the words, but if you don't, we'll have the lyrics up so that you can sing with pride. In fact, let's do a little competition. Teachers, you're going to be my judge on this. The classroom that gets the most middle school students singing the loudest with the most enthusiasm, they are going to win a prize. What's that prize going to be? I got an idea. The beautiful grand prize that is ramen noodles. What do you think? I will send a pack of ramen noodles to every single person in that class that wins. So let's jump into the song. I want you to sing it loud. I want you to sing it proud, and I'll check back in with you after.
I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait. I'm yours. Open up your mind and see like me. Open up your plans and damn, you're free. Look into your heart. heart and you will find love, 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 love. Listen to the music of the moment, people dance and sing. We just one big family, and it's a God-intended right to be loved, love, 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 love. So I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait. I'm sure there's no need to complicate. Our time is short. This is our fate. I'm yours.
Hey, thanks for participating in that. I don't know what class was the loudest, but I do know we'll have an opportunity at the very end to share one more song. All right, raise your hand right now if you, like me, are into sports. Any athletes out there, okay? Probably a handful of you out there. This was like my life growing up in elementary school. I was the youngest of three, and I remember all the way through like my younger years, middle school, high school, sports was our life. Like football in the fall, basketball in the winter, baseball in the spring and summer. And I remember it was my 5th grade year. It's probably like the year that I remember the most because every day in elementary school, maybe you can remember, we would go outside for recess, right? And we would get together and we would play a little game called football, right? I was the quarterback. I would always pick the teams. And I remember there was always a kid in our class that would get picked last. His name was Chris Johnson. And Chris was not a very good football player. In fact, sports in general really weren't Chris's thing. So whenever we were picking teams, whether it was, outside on the field at recess or after school on the court, or even in class when we would have to partner up with different people, Chris was the kid that was always picked last. Some days he wasn't even picked at all. And I remember one day specifically where Chris is on my team. And the reason I remember it is because this game, it came down to the very final play. We were down by 4 points. We had 10 seconds left, and we were at midfield. We needed a Hail Mary. We needed what they call the Minneapolis Miracle, right? And I'm the quarterback, and I walk up to the line, and I call out the play, blue 22, red 16, hut, hut, and I look for my 2 best receivers, and they are flying down the side of the field, and I'm watching them go deep, and I'm about to throw them the Hail Mary pass when at the very last second, I see they're completely covered. And the rush is running right at me. So I'm spinning left, I'm juking right, and out of the corner of my eye, I hear my name. Joe, throw it to me, I'm wide open. Guess who it is? It's Chris Johnson, and he's wide open. If I throw it to Chris and he catches it, it would mean a big gain. And I see him out there by himself, and I think to myself, nah, don't throw it to Chris. He's going to drop it. Look for somebody else, which is exactly what I do. I look for my next 2 best receivers. They're flying down the middle of the field. I'm watching them go deep. I'm about to throw them the Hail Mary pass when they too at the last second are completely covered. And the rush is even closer in my face now. So I'm spinning, I'm moving, and way downfield, in the end zone this time, I see and I hear this, Joe, throw it to me, I'm wide open. Chris Johnson is now in the end zone. If I throw it to Chris and he catches it, we would win the game. And there was nothing I wanted more out of life in 5th grade than to win at games. And I have 2 seconds to make a decision because the rush is running right at me. And I look at Chris and Chris looks at me, and this is what I decide to do. And I throw it in the opposite corner of where Chris was. My friend Pete, out of nowhere, jumps, catches it, lands 2 feet in bounds. It was the miracle of miracles. We won the game. And I'm freaking out, right? I run down the field. I'm like, Pete, that was the best catch ever. He's like, no, Joe, that was the best throw ever. Everybody on our team is going crazy. Everybody's super excited. Everyone's super pumped. Everyone except Chris. I look over, and Chris isn't celebrating with the rest of us. In fact, he's just standing in that same spot in the end zone staring at us until finally I see him do this. He walks in. I look at my buddies, and I'm like, hey, what's his problem? He was on the winning team. Chris, dude, you won. Whatever, man. Whatever, right? I didn't think twice about it. I was just excited. I had never been part of a play like that, let alone be the quarterback to win the game. So I'm telling everybody, right? I'm telling students, I'm telling teachers. I get on the bus, I tell the bus driver, he's like, you're annoying, sit down, right? The next person I see is my older brother. I walk into my house, my older brother, Matt, 7th grade, very tall. Joe, 5th grade, very small. And every day I'd come home as a 5th grader and I'd look in my 7th grade brother's eyes and I'd say, you are big. Me? Not so big. Could I play football with you and your friends after school? And my brother would always look at me and go, you're annoying, go away. But that day, I think I softened his heart because I told him about the miracle that happened at midfield merely hours before. I told him I was the quarterback and who made it happen. And then I looked into his 7th grade eyes again and I said, can I play football with your friends today? And he looked at me and said, you're still annoying, but you can play. Yes. We get to the field and it's just like we're at school. The 7th graders had captains. The only difference is that I wasn't one of the captains, but that made sense, right? The 7th graders were the captains, and they started picking out all the teams just like they did it at school, except for the fact that I got picked last. And I remember going out for a bunch of passes that game, and no one's throwing me the ball. No one's even looking in my direction until finally near the end of the game, I'm standing wide open in the end zone. Yo, dude, throw it to me. I'm wide open. 7th grade quarterback finally sees me. He finally notices me. He's got 2 seconds to make a decision. He looks at me. I look at him, and this is what he does. No. And he throws it in the opposite corner of where I was. And I walked straight home from that end zone. I was frustrated. I was angry. I was mad. I remember not even once. I never want to play football with those guys again. And then it hit me. If this is how I'm feeling after one game of this, how does Chris feel every single day? I mean, every single day he gets laughed at. Every single day he gets left out. Every single day, Joe, you're the one who's doing it. And in that moment, on the sidewalk, in between my park and my house, I had to make a choice. Was I going to go back to school and continue doing things the way I'd always done them, or was I going to make a different choice? And before I tell you that choice I made, I want to just take a quick time out from the story and talk a little bit about what we're doing here in the first place. You see, that choice that I had on that sidewalk that day, all of us have choices and moments just like that. Choices that not only impact you in a daily basis, but choices that impact others. Like when the weaker kid in the cafeteria drops his tray and food goes everywhere and everybody starts laughing. In that moment, you have a choice. A friend of yours says, hey, dude, let's go vape in the bathroom. No one's going to find out, just this one time. You have a choice. Maybe you're tempted to post that picture, the one that's a little bit more revealing, the one that might get you a few more likes, but also might ruin your reputation for the next few years. Here's my point. Every day we get these moments, and it's these choices, the ones that not only impact you, but the ones that impact others, that will not only determine who you are today, but it will also define how you are remembered tomorrow. Let me ask you a question. How will you be remembered? Some of you maybe have never thought about it, but the truth is, whether you like it or not, know it or not, or even thought 1 second about it or not, you will be remembered by your classmates, by your teachers, by the school community that you're a part of. And I believe all of us will be remembered in one of 3 ways: as a difference maker, a difference taker, or a difference faker. And today, in the small amount of time that I have with you, I really want you to think about, what is that person, what is that legacy that you want to be remembered for? Let's go back to that story with Chris, because I believe Chris will always remember me as one of those 3. So the next day we're picking teams, and we're the captain again for another day, and Jim Flaherty, a buddy of mine, looks at me and goes, Joe, you're up. First pick. And I look at him, I go, first pick? Yeah, first pick. Who do you choose? I scan the crowd, and I look, and there off to the side is Chris Johnson. I look, I go, I got Chris. And my friends looked at me like I was crazy. I said, don't worry about it. He's on my team today. And instead of not throwing Chris the ball, I remember I threw it to him twice. First time he caught it, the second time he dropped it, but that didn't matter. What matters is for the first time in a very long time, Chris walked back into school at the end of that recess feeling like he was part of the team, like part of the group. And all I had to do was throw him the ball a few times, not pick him last. You see, so often when we think about being a difference maker for somebody, we think we have to do these big, huge, giant things. But I assure you, being a difference maker isn't about changing the world. It's about changing one person's day. It's the little things that you do for somebody, like open the door for a substitute teacher when they're walking into the classroom for a first time. Or when somebody drops their stuff in the hallway, instead of just leaving it there, you pick it up and help them out. It's calling somebody by the first name that they never get called by because they've been called a nickname that they don't want for so many years. It's those little things that we can add in people's lives that will make such a big difference. And let's be honest, our world, your school, your class could use more difference makers. And if you don't believe me, listen to these stats. 160,000 students skip school every day, not because they don't want to be there, but because they're afraid of how they're going to get treated when they are there. The average age of depression in our society is 14 years old. 5,400 youth between the ages of 12 to 18 will attempt. Not in a year, not in a month. That's every single day. My guess is that there are people in your school that you would probably have no idea who are struggling with some of this stuff. And I know firsthand because my daughter, who's in 8th grade, was diagnosed with childhood depression when she was younger. And on the outside, if you were to look at her on a picture, you would say, man, she's got it all together. But as a dad, what I know is that there are plenty of days where she doesn't feel like she's got it all together. So often, the people who are in your life and are in your school that you think have no problems or no issues whatsoever, who could never use a difference maker, need them more than anyone. Our world needs more difference makers. And the other reason we know we need more difference makers is because it's not easy. I mean, yes, sure, I was a difference maker in 5th grade for Chris, but as the years went on, middle school and high school, things got a little bit more messy. I went to a really interesting high school. It was called St. Thomas Academy up in St. Paul, where I grew up in Minnesota. Now, St. Thomas was different because St. Thomas was an all-male military academy. You heard me right. All-male military. We had uniforms, we had a march, and we had to adhere to what the military calls their chain of command. If you don't know what this is, it's a ranking system where the lowest ranks go on the bottom and the top ranks go near the top, right? And over the years, the idea is that you would get promoted up this military chain of command. And as a 9th grader, you all started at the bottom, but through acts of leadership and academic accomplishment, maybe you would get promoted to corporal or lieutenant, or there was this top rank called cadet colonel. And for some people in my class and in my grade, this was the single most important thing. Like they would do whatever it takes to move up that military chain of command. Now, why do I bring that up? Because there's a very little chance that you have a military component at your school. But here's why. Because every school, I believe, has a different version of this. It's not the military chain of command. It's what I call the social chain of command. And like the military chain of command, it's a ranking system, where we put certain people in certain groups and we rank them in certain order, right? Maybe you have your athletes or your academic rock stars or your drama kids or your musicians or maybe the alternative kiddos in your school. And based on certain criteria, we put certain groups on different levels in that chain of command. And the truth is, for some of you, this has become the single most important thing. For some of you, you're willing to do whatever it takes to move up, even if it means pushing other people down in the process. There was a student in my high school named Matt Brown, and on our social chain of command, Matt was at the very, very bottom. Least popular kid in our grade, probably the least popular kid in our entire school. Matt was different. He had this condition that he couldn't control. When he would get nervous or anxious, the muscles in his face would tense up pretty fiercely, like Tourette's-like syndrome. And the more that would happen, the more kids would point and laugh. And the more kids would point and laugh, the more that would happen. School was a really, really difficult place for Matt to be. And over the years, I only had one class with Matt. It was sophomore year, world history. I remember great class, great teacher. I sat in the front, Matt sat in the back, and the one thing I remembered is Matt never once raised his hand. Never once did he participate. Never once did he say a single word until the very end of the semester. You see, at the very end of the semester, our teacher informs us that a big part of our final grade wasn't going to be a paper or a test, but rather this presentation that we were going to have to do in front of everybody. Kind of gave us the guidelines, 15 minutes, topic of our choice, and we started working on these presentations, and one by one we would get up and we would present. And then it was Matt's day to go. And when it was Matt's day to go, there was, a different energy when I walked into the classroom that day. People were talking about Matt, and they weren't saying the kindest things, including one kid by the name of Kyle. Kyle, on our social chain of command, was at a different spot than Matt. If Matt was at the bottom, Kyle was at the top. And let me just say this, Kyle wasn't at the top for the right reasons. And although I didn't know exactly what he was saying about Matt, 100% chance it was something disrespectful. Now, the class starts and our teacher walks to the front and he tells us who's presenting. He said, our presenter today is Mr. Matt Brown. He's going to be talking about World War II fighter planes. And normally people would clap, but nobody clapped. It was super awkward as Matt walked all the way to the front of the classroom and he brought this box with him. He set the box on our teacher's desk, and he turned to start this presentation. And to say this kid is nervous, you guys, is like the understatement of the year. I mean, he's starting to talk, but you can tell he's starting to stutter. His face starts tensing up. You could hardly understand what he was saying. He said something along the lines of, hey, my name is Matt, and I'm going to be talking about World War II fighter planes and how they helped in the Allied victory. And then he went into this box, and out of it, he started pulling these model airplanes out one by one. And as he started talking about these planes, you could see this kid's confidence start to rise. He put these planes together, and every single detail was pristine, and the class started getting more engaged. People behind me were looking over my shoulder, and Matt, you could tell he was getting into this presentation. And then he put in this video for us to watch. And I don't know why, but about halfway through the video, I looked over just to see what Matt was doing. And for the first time I could remember, I see this kid with the smallest little smile, which I know sounds so little to you and me, but for him, that was huge. And I remember thinking in my head, good for you, dude. Maybe things are going to get better because of this presentation. Who knew? Well, there was one kid who was going to make sure that didn't happen. End of the presentation, class ends, everybody's walking out into the hallway. Matt is the last kid to walk out. And as our teacher turns to prep for the next class, Kyle is waiting in the hallway, waiting for his moment. Matt takes one step out of the classroom and Kyle times it perfectly. He shoves a buddy into Matt, goes crashing into him. Matt goes flying, box goes flying, planes on the ground. Everybody starts laughing. I remember Kyle going up to him and saying, oh, dude, my bad. And he turns to walk away. But as he does, out of the corner of his eye, he sees one of Matt's planes by his left foot. And it was almost as if you could see the wheels turning in his head. He looks at his buddy, kind of smiles, looks at Matt, and he crushes it. He walks away, and there's Matt on the ground, stunned. His face starts tensing up. He starts putting the planes back into the box, but you could feel it. Any kind of confidence that kid had gained over the last 20 minutes got shattered in 2 seconds. All because one kid felt like he needed to do whatever it took to stay at the top. Why do we need more difference makers in our world? Because, well, it seems like for every difference maker, there's an equal and opposite difference taker. What's a difference taker? A difference taker is anyone who uses their words or actions to decrease greatness in others. I meet a lot of middle school students who say the last thing that they want to be remembered for is being a difference taker, but the truth is, if school ended today, some of you would fall into that camp. Maybe you throw around words that you think are funny to other people or rumors behind people's back. And I hear, Joe, you don't understand. Joe, that rumor I spread about that girl, Joe, that rumor's true, so it's cool, right? Well, of course, right? If the rumor's true, tell everybody, because you would love it if someone did that to you. No. But no, Joe, the name, we call that kid, Joe, that name, he's been called that name ever since he was in 3rd grade. Joe, that's his nickname. We're just kidding. Just kidding. Right. Okay. I'll give it to you. Maybe you are just kidding. Maybe it's really funny to you and the 3 people standing behind you, but just in case you're not aware, when you walk away and you forget about the name you just called that kid, guess who doesn't forget? And now this kid's got to go to class next hour, and they're supposed to try to learn, but the only thing going through their mind is, why do they keep calling me that name? And now this kid, on top of everything else in their life, is carrying that back into their home, when on top of everything else going on that they have to deal with, things that we don't have even the slightest clue on, they have one more thing to think about, and now they're crying themselves to sleep at night, questioning everything. But hey, it's just kidding, right? Listen, I get it. I do. I'm not saying that we have to be perfect, and I'm not saying that I don't make mistakes, because the truth is there are plenty of days where I have a difference takers, when I say things or do things that I instantly regret that I say. I would say this, not most of the time, about 10% of us, if school ended today, would fall in the difference maker category. About 10% would fall into the difference taker category. But then there's this last group, this 80%. And I believe if we're not going to be remembered as a difference maker or a difference taker, we'll fall into this 3rd and final category, which I call difference faker. Now, what's a difference faker? A difference faker is anybody who wants to do the right thing, but they get stuck, probably because they're afraid of what will happen to them on that social chain of command. And if there's anybody in my life who I think about when it comes to being a difference faker, it's me. This is like who I was in middle school and high school. It's like I wanted to be such a good guy, but I would get stuck. Think about that story with Matt. Like, every part of me wanted to say something to Kyle and tell him to knock it off, or go up to a teacher and report what happened, or help Matt out, but I didn't do anything. It was like I so badly wanted to be this difference maker and stop all the difference takers, but I would freeze and I'd become a difference faker. The truth is, most of you watching this, you don't start the drama and you don't cause the pain. Maybe like me, everything in your heart hates it when you see stuff like this go down in your school. Every part of you wants it to go away, wishes it would stop, hopes that it will end. But I got to tell you from experience that wishing and wanting and hoping isn't enough. Listen, there are people in your school that need you, and oftentimes it's people that you would never expect. My daughter is in 8th grade, and you can see from this picture that she looks like a normal, healthy 8th grader, but what I can tell you as a dad is that many days she doesn't feel very normal or healthy. Sophia was diagnosed in 3rd grade with something called childhood depression, and the last few years have been a really big struggle. And I don't share that with you to make you feel bad for me or to make you feel bad for my daughter, because the truth is we all have stuff. The reason I tell you that story is because this is how many people in her class know about those struggles. 0. I mean, her teacher knows, but nobody else does. And what I know as a dad is, on the days that Sophia is hurting the worst, what she doesn't need is a best friend or someone to magically make everything go away. What she does need is a difference maker, someone to smile at her or talk to her, or just remind her that no matter how dark it is in this moment, it's not always going to be that dark. I guarantee there are people in your life, maybe even in the class that you are sitting in right now, who understand what that sort of loneliness feels like. And so often we think we have to do these big, big things in order to change their life or to save someone's life. But I'm telling you, being a difference maker isn't about changing the world. It's about changing one person's day. And every single one of us have hundreds, if not thousands, of choices, just like I had on the sidewalk that day in 5th grade. And the choice that we make in that moment, the ones that impact not just ourselves, but impact others, those choices matter. I don't believe it's about being perfect. I don't think we're going to go through this life without making mistakes, but I do believe we can be better. What if? What if instead of 10% of the class or your school being difference makers and 10% being difference takers and 80% being difference fakers, what if we shifted that a little bit? We are part of this group and this community together, and you're going to be part of a group and a community for the next 5, 6 years. And so my advice to you would be to, in those moments where you have to make those decisions, to think about, how do I want to be remembered? As a difference maker, a difference taker, or a difference faker? Because the person that you want to be remembered for isn't how it goes. It's our choices and our actions at the end of the day that ultimately define our legacy. Here's my challenge. With all of these hundreds and thousands of choices that we get to make every single day, I challenge you with one of those choices to look out for one person, to be a difference maker for one classmate or teacher or someone in your school community every single day. I believe if you did that, if your classmates did that, if your teachers did that, man, the ripple effect that that would have in your school, the difference maker effect you would feel, man, that would be felt throughout the entire community for years to come. No, it's not about being perfect, but it is about being better. Let's move away from being difference takers. Let's move away from being difference fakers, and let's move into being difference makers. You guys are awesome. Love your face. Bye-bye.
I close my eyes and I see a world that's waiting up for me that I call my own. Through the dark, through the door, through where no one's been before, and it feels like home. They can say it all sounds crazy. They can say I've lost my mind. I don't care if they call us crazy. We can live in a world that we design. 'Cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. I dream of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. A million dreams for the world we're gonna make.